The sea burned crimson under the fractured moon. Smoke coiled from the shattered wreck of the royal warship Aurelian, which had been split in half by a cannon blast. The cries of the dying were swallowed by the waves, and amid the chaos, a single figure dragged himself from the ruins, a man in torn slave garb, his wrists still marked by iron cuffs. Kael coughed out salt water and stared at the wreckage. His chest heaved. He'd been chained in the lower decks when the attack came, yet somehow he'd survived the explosion. Around him debris floated, splintered wood, twisted metal, and bodies. Then, as lightning flared across the storm-dark sky, he saw her, the Queen. She lay half-buried under a collapsed beam near the rear hull, her white royal tunic soaked in blood and seawater. Her silver crown was gone, her face pale with pain, but there was no mistaking her. Queen Seraphine of Aurelian, ruler of the Western Isles. The same woman who had ordered Kael's enslavement after his village rebelled 5 years ago. For a long moment Kael just stared. Fate was cruel. She was paralyzed from the waist down. Her legs twisted unnaturally beneath the wreckage. He could have left her to drown. He could have watched her die and felt justice done. But something inside him, something long buried under anger, refused. He clenched his jaw, tore a piece of broken spear for leverage, and began lifting the beam. "Don't move," he muttered. Her eyes fluttered open, glazed with pain. You're one of the slaves," she breathed, her voice trembling. "You should run. The hull's collapsing." "Then stop talking," Kael growled. "You're heavier when you talk." With a final heave, the beam rolled aside. He pulled her out, wincing at her muffled scream. Her legs hung limp. When he looked down, realization struck her too. She couldn't feel them. Her jaw tightened, but she said nothing. Kael spotted a section of the ship's hull still afloat, a curved plank large enough to carry 2 people. He hoisted her onto it, tying her torso to it with torn ropes. Then he began to drag it toward the open sea, muscles trembling with each pull. The tide was merciless, slamming waves against his body, but he refused to let go. Behind them, the remains of the Aurelian groaned and sank beneath the surface. Hours later, the storm had calmed, replaced by an eerie silence. Dawn's first light painted the horizon in gold. Kael floated beside the makeshift raft, one hand gripping the rope. The Queen lay still, barely conscious, her silver hair matted to her face. "Why?" she asked hoarsely. "Why save me? I took everything from your people." Kael didn't answer for a long time. "Because," he finally said, "not saving you would make me like the nobles who enslaved me. And I'm done being what they made me." A faint, almost sorrowful smile touched her lips. "You shame me, slave." "Name's Kael," he said quietly. "Not slave. Not anymore." She nodded weakly. Then, "Oh, if we survive this, I'll see that you're freed. I swear it." He met her eyes. "You're in no position to make promises." "Queens don't need positions," she murmured before slipping into unconsciousness. Scene 3, the island. They drifted for 2 days before washing ashore on a small, uncharted island, a strip of sand ringed by dark cliffs. Kael built a shelter from driftwood and palm fronds. He found fresh water inland and carried it back to her in cupped leaves. Her paralysis left her helpless. Kael fed her, kept her warm, and tended to the wounds along her back. The once proud queen was reduced to silence, humbled by her own frailty. At night, Kael sat by the fire, staring at the stars. "You ever think," he said one evening, "that the gods enjoy irony?" Seraphine's pale face flickered in the firelight. "Every day. Perhaps this is their way of breaking me. He glanced at her. Or teaching you. Days turned to weeks. Her injuries began to heal, though her legs remained lifeless. Kael built crude splints and fashioned a sling to carry her when they searched for food. Slowly, against the odds, they began to trust one another. She taught him to read the royal script carved on the ship's remains. He told her stories of his lost home, his mother, his dreams before the chains. There were moments, brief, fragile, where they almost laughed. But hope was dangerous. Scene 4: The Rescue. On the 22nd day, a royal search vessel appeared on the horizon. Seraphine's eyes filled with tears when she saw the flag of Aurelian. Kael hoisted a torch and waved it. Within hours, sailors had reached the shore. They bowed deeply before their queen, but when their eyes fell on Kael, ragged, sunburned and scarred, their hands moved toward their swords. "Hold," Seraphine commanded, her voice trembling but firm. "He saved my life. Without him, your queen would be bones on the ocean floor." The captain hesitated. "Your Majesty, he's a free man," she interrupted sharply. "By royal decree." The soldiers froze. Kael looked at her, stunned. She met his gaze, weary, sincere. "You gave me back my life, Kael. It's only right that I give you yours." He bowed deeply. "Then I'll carry your name with mine, not as chains but as honor." Epilogue. Months later, in the capital of Aurelian, a royal announcement was made. The queen had survived, and her rescuer had been granted not only freedom but land and title. Kael of the Broken Hull, they called him, the man who dragged a queen from death itself. In her private chamber, Seraphine watched him from her balcony as he rode away from the palace. Though her legs still would not move, her heart felt strangely light. He had saved her body. But in truth, she thought, it was he who had freed her soul. The royal ship Aurelian's Grace cut through the silver waters as Kael and Queen Seraphine stood side by side on the deck, two survivors bound by fate. The capital's white spires glimmered in the distance, and Kael's heart felt heavy. He had saved her life, yet he knew that stepping foot on Aurelian soil might mean returning to chains. When they docked, soldiers rushed forward, bowing to the queen but glaring at the scarred man behind her. Before they could seize him, Seraphine raised a trembling hand. "This man," she declared, her voice echoing across the harbor, "dragged me from the jaws of death, across burning wreckage and raging storms. He carried me when I could not walk. And I, your queen, owe him everything." A stunned silence followed. She looked directly at Kael, her sapphire eyes filled with gratitude and quiet sorrow. "By royal decree, Kael of the Broken Hull is no longer a slave. From this day he walks free, his courage honored by crown and country." Gasps rippled through the crowd. The guards lowered their swords. Kael, too stunned to speak, bowed his head. "My queen," he said softly, "you've given me back more than life. You've given me my name." A faint smile touched her lips. "Then carry it proudly, Kael. Live freely, for both of us." He turned to leave, the wind catching his torn cloak. Behind him, Seraphine watched from her gilded chair, the sunlight glinting off the silver brace that held her paralyzed legs. He had saved her body. But as his figure faded into the horizon, she realized the truth. Kael had given her something greater than survival. He had taught her how to be human,